Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Marie Kreese, and I'm the principal at École Saint-Thomas School. I am the wife of Corey and the mother of three wonderful children, a 22-year-old a girl, 21-year-old son, and a 17-year-old daughter. And I am so pleased to be sharing this evening with you, bullying, how to help my child. I'm just going to try and give you a parent and a principal perspective as we move forward through this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory. Traditional meeting grounds and gathering place, traveling route of the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. And in trying to keep with that acknowledgement and working towards reconciliation of all peoples of Canada. Our goals for tonight are I really hope to empower you a little bit, helping you to know what to do when your child is feeling mistreated, hopefully helping with the understanding of bullying actions and bystanders, and helping you to feel like your child can thrive even when others are unkind. So I'm going to look at the difference between conflict and bullying and try to offer you some insights as parents. These are some of my favorite books. They've molded certainly some of my early understanding and into the present here. Barbara Coloroso is a guru, and I would say in terms of bullying, not so innocent bystanders. Her writing has evolved over the years, and you can YouTube so many clips from Barbara. Another writer, Michelle Borba, definitely influenced my feelings about how kids were treating each other. As a young principal, I wanted to make sure that I understood things, and so these are definitely authors that I would encourage when trying to understand how to build empathy, especially this book here. Just because it's not right doesn't make it wrong, or just because it's not wrong, doesn't make it right. I love that book. Very important in my early parenting as well. So let's talk about bullying. Bullying really is about a feeling of discontent, a feeling of power when we try to put ourselves over someone else. And so really, when children or teens mistreat others, it's a lack of respect and human dignity towards the other person. So it is can be terrorizing, intimidating, shunning. It really is the opposite of loving someone. It's an indifference that can create evil. And in some of those books I referenced, understanding why people bully is a super key. It's very, very key to understanding why kids treat each other the way that they do. So bullying really is a conscious, willful act where kids are getting pleasure from someone else's pain. And I'll use kids and teens intermittently, of course, in order to help with tonight. So it can be repeated, but really understanding that mistreatment one time is enough. You do not need to be mistreated. Children do not need to accept name-calling, put-downs, kicks in the shin, elbows into the locker. None of that is acceptable. And all of it is bullying. So when it is repeated cruel acts, of course, that's the traditional definition of bullying. But there are bullying actions that happen every day in schools, on hockey change rooms, on the way home from school, on the school bus. It might be in children's backyards, playing street hockey. Cruel and malicious behavior is everywhere, and can happen verbally, physically, or relationally, which means we're shunning, we're gossiping, we're spreading rumors about another person. Understanding what happens in schools helps us to really determine how to go about things. And so as parents, really knowing that discipline is based on learning, not on punishment. It is not about giving consequences for behaviors. It's about helping the children who are hurt as victims learn how to cope and move on and what to do to be stronger and have courage. And the child who is doing the mistreatment needs to learn how to be a better friend, how to problem solve, how to regulate their emotions. It's about being fair and learning to become self-disciplined, learning how to be respectful, responsible citizens so that we know how to grow up as adults and make good choices as well. So knowing that there's clear behaviors that are not acceptable in schools, there's going to be a flexibility in how we deal with that for each child and how we navigate with families through the process for sure. There's a cycle of violence that is referenced in Dr. Curloroso's books. And this talks about bullies are the people that take the active part in the action. There's followers who they're part of it, but they don't start it. They're there. They might laugh. They might add to the problem. There's supportive and passive bullies. They support the bully, but they don't actually do the action part. There's passive supporters. They might like the bully or feel like they're their friend, but they don't openly display support. You've got people that are onlookers. They watch and they don't really take a stand, but they watch. You have people who could be defenders. They're thinking about helping, but they don't. Then you've got others who might defend the target. And of course, in the middle, as you see, is the target themselves. So in every situation where your child comes home and somebody hit them, pushed them, called them a name, there are all these other people that play a role in the context of what happened to your child. And so in one of the links that will be shared with you on the website and on our Google website, will be a link to this document. And it's a PDF document that you can use to understand this a little bit better. So bullying, how I believe, this is my personal opinion, I actually believe using the word bullying gets in the way. Often it gets in the way of helping your child. So you as a parent, me as a principal, a teacher, we need to understand who, what, when, where, why. The actual events aren't vague. Something happened. Your child's feelings when they feel less than another person or put down, or they feel embarrassed by what they wore to school, or somebody said something about their lunch, or all of those bullying actions are real. Something happened in real time that created that emotion. It was either a dirty look, a push, a shove, a variety of things. When we call those concrete actions bullying, it clouds it. It allows a space for emotion to overtake and the actual events not be acknowledged. It can actually get in the way and make the child feel like the one event was significantly bigger than it perhaps even was. And when you layer multiple bullying actions that are never dealt with in a concrete way, you get a sense of victimization and the child feeling like they're never going to get out of the situation with this person. So I really think that this question as parents is your starting. How do I get to the truth? The emotions that your children feel are very, very real. And you as a parent, it's really important not to get lost in their emotion. Recognize their emotion, but get to the context of the incident. So let's use he hit me for no reason, for example. You as a parent ask questions not related to the hitting. Get around the context. Who were they playing with? Who else was there? What recess? Which playground? The hitting part is the most important part for your child. Finding out all of the details helps you understand what happened and why. And then when they come home or come back from hockey or come in from outside playing street hockey or playing outside with the neighbors, give them a cool down period. Find out the whole story, like I said, and ask a lot of questions. Be empathetic, trying to give them a chance to tell you what happened. If they're super upset, that number one tip on this slide is really important. Talk to them later. You need them to internalize a little bit, calm down, and be able to come back with the facts of what happened. Ask them if anyone helped them. Ask them if they told an adult. Take note in your mind of who's helping them, which friends are being, good friends. And then one of the key tips I can give you as parents is find out, why are they reporting to you as parents? They have a reason. They either want to just tell you, they maybe want you to help them fix it. Maybe they need to know further, they need to understand. Or maybe they have taken a part and they need consequences and they need to learn and they want to know your boundaries. So context, super important. Calming them down, super important. And then understanding what they want from you as a parent. If you always jump to, I need to fix it, you may actually not be listening to what your child needs from you, because they have their own reason for coming to you in the first place. The sixth little tip I have is that if it needs to be explored further, they can't give you all the details, they don't understand, you're not getting anywhere, then guide, assist, and support them to report. If you actually report for your child, you are completely removing their responsibility to be accurate and responsible. So if they did play a part in the incident at school, or I'm going to use school because I'm a principal and that's what comes most to mind, but in any situation, if they played a part and you always report for them, they don't ever have to own their part. It actually hinders their building accountability. It hinders their independence and their ability to take actions for themselves. So teach them what's important to report and how to handle it on their own with some assertiveness skills, giving them phrases, and we'll get into that in the next slides. If once they've reported, there's still no resolution for their child, then please ask to meet with their teacher. It is really important that you help them report and not just pick up the phone and call the teacher, this is what happened to my child. And I can't stress that enough. If they see you solving their problems, they don't believe they can solve it. They believe that you need to solve it. So there's a delicate balance with parents trying to rescue their children versus teaching them how to step this out and going to adults that they trust. So this I think is super crucial, complicating factors that hinder kids getting a resolution from situations. What gets in the way? These things that you see on the screen here are factors that slow down the process of positive discipline, but it's a reality for most students. If they were bullied, clear cut, someone walked up to them, you're a loser, I don't know why you dress that way, you know, your mom's doing something, or they call down their parents, the embarrassment of that event actually gets in the way of your child telling you the full context of what happened. If they think that they were responsible for that clear-cut bullying in any way, they're not going to tell you all of it. And even parents, I don't want to insult anyone. However, I need you to know if you feel that your child tells you everything, there may be things they're not telling you. And it's possible that your child is super truthful and super honest, but it's also possible that some of these factors get in the way of them being able to express or internalize process the feelings that they're having. So sometimes as parents, it's really hard to know if what you're dealing with when they come home and say, he fought me at school, this kid tried to fight me at school, and I believe that happens. It's hard to know if you're dealing with a conflict or if you're dealing with bullying. And so if you as a parent understand the difference between conflict and bullying, you can use this language with your child. If you paint it with one brush that they're being bullied, then again, vague, no specific context, they become a victim, and then parents try to solve it for them. Where if you try to get to, if the situation was a conflict, then that may help this process. So know in your heart that conflict is normal and necessary. Kids are not always going to get along. That's how they move through their relationships and grow. So they need to learn to respond not violently. And when, as they're moving through, growing up and learning on the playground, they need to know that conflict happens. It can an equal emotional reaction. Two kids will be mean to each other is very different than someone deciding that they're going to be cruel to another person. So I'm going to use a girl example. Grade 4 in the hallway. Hi, hi, hi to every girl that they see. And then when another girl walks by, they look at her, give them a look, and walk away. That's cruel. It's demeaning. It's bullying. That's not a conflict. That's a situation where that person decided that that girl did not deserve to be treated as everyone else. No remorse. They simply took advantage of, they knew they could make someone feel a certain way. So you have to sort out as a parent, which is it, so that you know how to respond. So conflict, let's just talk about conflict for a minute. It arises from many factors. So I want to explain to you how play, from my perspective as a principal, play has really changed on the playground. Children are less flexible with their ideas now with creative play, dramatic play, than they have been and they were in years past. So a lot of times what I deal with on the playground is kids recreating what they've seen online already. So they're a character out of a Paw Patrol versus just playing a game of puppies. So they're in grade 2, kids are barking, kids are meowing, they're crawling around on the playground, and someone is just a puppy. They're just playing as a puppy. But the other child, your child maybe, is actually playing an episode of Paw Patrol that they saw. So when this random puppy doesn't do what they're supposed to do in the game, according to them, a conflict arises. And if they don't have good language skills to be able to say, what are you playing? Why are you doing that? And they can express what they want and negotiate the play, then conflict will arise. This happens a lot. I've dealt with numerous situations where I've got 5 or 6 children. I'm going to use a recent example with some ice blocks and building and forts and all kinds of things outside. Nobody really knows what they're playing. They're playing together. Some kids are actually recreating a video game, and they want the fort they're building to look like what they created on Minecraft. And so when kids are trying to put blocks in certain ways, next thing you know, a block gets swung and somebody's getting hit in the face with an ice block. And they're like, wow, this kid's really mean to me. When actually that child was just really inflexible with what they wanted in their Minecraft ice fort. So getting to the bottom of things is really important in knowing what to do next. I want to share this and just make a plug for Dr. Jody Carrington. She has been crucial to me, and I listen to her lives as much as I can. Understanding emotional regulation for your kids is one thing that I encourage all parents to do. This also helped me understand adult emotional regulation too, which as parents, we kind of get pulled in naturally to how our children are feeling. So I want to make a plug for kids these days. Give it a try. Take a look at how you can understand how your child is internalizing some of these things going on around them. This is another tool I would like to offer, especially with children from, say grade 3 to 7. Understanding friends. So friends and frenemies, the good, the bad, and the awkward. It's a neat little book giving lots of situations, helps with conflict resulting from kids wanting different things out of friendships. So not everybody's looking for the same thing in their friendship. So when there's bullying actions happening, like a kick in the shin or a shove in the locker or a really mean name or something cruel on Snapchat, it may have to do with one of these areas of friendship that your child is trying to understand. So here's a few tips for problem solving when friends fight. So this is not bullying. This is simply conflict. And you've got friends that are now making decisions that are not so kind. There is some bullying actions within these friendships, but it's not intentional. I'm going to overpower you repetitively. It's simply conflict that results in bullying actions. So you've got unkind words in an argument, for example. Give them some role play. Give them some words to use. Give them some phrases. Actually practice an argument with your child. I found this super helpful as a parent, giving my children phrases to use so that when they're in a conflict, they know what to say to get out of it. So for example, if someone's being cruel in a conversation, they might say something as simple as, I don't like how you're talking to me right now. I'm going to take a break, or I'm going to text you later. We can talk about this at another time, for example. Something that won't engage further conflict, but they aren't aggressively asking for more conflict. So give them some words, teach them how to talk things out, teach them the difference between a sincere apology and just something to get out of a situation. And then sometimes we really have to teach our kids to move on. If kids hold on to small fights that they've had with a friend over time, they pile up, everything gets cloudy, and now it feels like bullying when actually it's been a series of small conflicts that maybe were not sorted out efficiently. So trying to get to the bottom of that for your child might help as well. These are some ideas about how to respond verbally to bullying actions and conflict. This would work for both. Know that aggression will cause more aggression. If you're passive, you invite aggression. A bully or somebody who's looking to make themselves feel better will feed on passivity. So getting children to just ignore and walk away, if it's an actual bullying situation, will cause more bullying. If it's a problem between two friends and you say, ignore it, walk away, that won't necessarily invite more aggression. That would actually calm perhaps that situation down. So that's why it's so important to know the difference between what your child is dealing with in every specific incident. If you teach your child to be assertive, it actually dissipates the aggression. I often use an analogy of a balloon, an air balloon. And so when you're in a problem, when you're being aggressive or passive, you're like filling that other child's air balloon full up. But if you're simply assertive or neutral, the air comes out of their balloon. They don't get to puff up and be bigger and stronger than you. They actually don't have any hot air to keep fueling that balloon. So teach your child to like roll their shoulders back and down, stand strong, look people in the eyes, and simply say something neutral like, that was mean and cruel. That was racist. I'm out of here. I don't need to listen to this. I'll talk to you later. I'm going to go over there and play. When you decide to be nice, I'll be in on the field, for example. So give them a phrase and something to use, something to that won't invite a conflict. It's just simple statement. This is a strategy that will not work with bullies. I need to make that super clear. This strategy, the power of using I messages, is for problem solving. Problem solving conflicts between groups of friends. If you use I messages with a bully, it fuels them. It's equal to passivity. So please do not use it with bullies. But if you have kids who can't get along, or you've got a girls situation where from grade 3 to grade 7, they are still being mean to each other, they're still cruel and mean, this I messaging will help them into adulthood. Simply saying, I feel angry when you call me names. When you Snapchat me in this way, it makes me feel like this. I get suspicious when you're telling me these things. So using how they feel and then the behavior makes it very clear for them what's bothering them. That is the first step. Of course, there's lots of things. If you want to know more about iMessaging, YouTube it, Google it. There are so many tools out there to help with iMessaging for your child. It helps with assertive language. I believe that I often use this specific what to do when people are rude. There's some videos about it as well. Helping kids to understand why other kids are rude is really important. And often grade 4, 5, 6, 7, I will often use this with kids. When kids are mean and rude, they're actually putting a huge target on themselves saying, hello, I don't know how to be a good friend. I'm actually feeling really awful about myself. So if I make you feel bad, then I feel better. That target is they're asking for help. So I've often used this to explain, for example, I say to kids, you're in a rowboat every day at school, and you've got kids who are being mean and cruel. Those kids are actually drowning in the water going, hey, somebody help me. I actually feel really bad about myself. I think I'm good, but I'm not good. So I'm treating you badly. They're like calling out for help. And a lot of kids won't report. They just paddle on by. Well, not my problem. He's mean to a so-and-so over there. I'm not going to help them. It's not my problem at all. And I try to teach kids that we should care. We should care enough that this kid is so cruel and mean. We should let adults know so that that child can get help that they need. So reporting is not ratting. Kids will say, well, don't be a rat. Don't tell an adult. Actually teaching your children to report in a safe, anonymous way is really helpful to the child that's hurting so bad that they need to be cruel to others. So if you have that long-standing bully, this kid has been mean to other kids since kindergarten, maybe, or grade 4, or grade 5. Your child has been ignoring it for years so that they're not picked on. When actually teaching your child why that child might be mean and telling them to report anonymously is really important. So I use a system in my school, Safe Remind, for grade 5 and 6, where kids can text me directly and report things that they see in the hallway. So nobody ever sees them reporting, because going to line up at the teacher's desk and reporting something at recess is so socially risky. It's not even realistic from probably grade 3 on. kids will learn who's telling, and then they get to be targets and all of that. So now with technology, let's use it to our advantage. Teach kids to report using an anonymous way. They can ask to go to the bathroom and talk to an adult that they trust at school. They can write it on a little note of paper and slip it to the teacher when they're leaving the class, or they can from their own email at home, email the teacher and say, this is what I saw today. We find at school ways to deal with that in a way that doesn't let the child who's doing the harmful action know who reported. So we try to be as discreet as possible. Now, this is something that I encounter and have encountered for years. These questions that you see have to do with privacy laws. Like the child will say, I reported and nothing happened. The child doesn't get to see the result. And unfortunately, my life would be easier if I could just tell parent A what parent B is going to do to help their own kid. That would settle everyone down. They would have trust and faith that something's being done. But often at schools, parents have this impression that nothing's happening because we can't. With FOIP, Freedom of Information Protection laws, we can't actually tell you who the other child was, what happened to them, what their parents doing about it, all of those steps. So a child reports, and that's it for them. They might get some support dealing with it, but then that's it. And that's really hard for kids to understand. So if you feel like nothing's happening, please do follow up with your child, with your child's teacher, and then if needed with administration, because we are doing things. And I really feel like this has been something that's been in the way for some parents supporting what's been going on at schools, is if they think nothing's happening. But if you can understand that there is a privacy issue with sharing what's happening, that we are actually working with both sides. We believe your child as a victim deserves a process to heal. We also believe that the child who is doing the mistreatment has to learn. And unfortunately, that learning doesn't happen as fast as you, a hurt parent and a hurt child, wants. Sometimes it takes years. And I've been doing this long enough to know that sometimes kids will even leave our hands in grade 7 after so many efforts on the behalf of their parents and us to learn to be kinder and nicer. Sometimes they leave and they still don't have all the skills that they need to be the best version of themselves. So these are some things that we encourage for restoring conflict as well as bullying. Kids need to take ownership of what they've done, problem solve it, reconcile, and all of that while retaining their dignity. So helping a bully or somebody who's cruel has more to do with teaching them empathy than it does any other consequence or skill. Because ultimately, the bully, the child who is being cruel or mean or hurtful or trying to get power over someone, doesn't fundamentally believe that that person deserves it, deserves kindness. And so teaching friendship, empathy, and nurturing good friendship skills takes a long time. That's the only way to counter or counteract the mean behavior. So we need to get to the hurt for the problem child, the child who is the problem for your child. That child needs a lot of steps and a lot of help. And your compassion as a parent to teach your child that this will take some time is important as well. Getting to each incident so there can be appropriate consequences is key. So here's some things, if it's physical aggression, what to do and what not to do. So here's a few tips. Please don't tell your child to avoid or ignore the bully. That fuels them. If I can shove you in a locker and I'm in grade 6 and I can walk by you and oops, I bumped into you, guess what? If I'm a bully and I don't feel good about myself and you don't say anything or nothing happens to me, and I get a little adrenaline rush from that, I'm going to do it again. So if you teach them to defend themselves defensively, not offensively, and if there's danger, they actually run to an adult, go get help. It will be dealt with at the school, and I'm sure coaches will deal with it, and parents in the playground and streets will deal with it too. Do not let physical aggression escalate by telling them to avoid it or ignore the bully. Really important. We also don't want them engaging in offensive fighting with this person either, because there's always a danger with that as well. As parents and adults, kids need to hear, I hear you, I believe you, you're not alone, I'm here for you. We have to keep them safe emotionally and physically. We want to keep all witnesses safe. And we work really hard, I know, as administration across schools to try to keep things discreet. And sometimes kids will automatically know if there's consequences for the other child. I mean, if they're working it out together, they're going to know if they had to stay longer and the other child had to stay more. Or if they, the kids might come back and say, well, I had to call my parents. Or they might know that things are happening. But sometimes it's really important, as much as possible, that we keep the witnesses safe as well. It takes time to deal with things. Know that when you report something, sometimes it takes us 2 or 3 days in order to keep all the witnesses safe and not be targeted by this person again and complicate the issue. We might take 2-3 days to deal with things. So things don't always happen on the timeline that we want. And how do you teach your children to have courage? Pardon me. I feel like as parents, we need to show them how it's done. Your children are watching you. So how you treat strangers, how you treat coaches, how you treat other parents in the hockey rink, how you treat people in the mall, how you deal with bigoted relatives at family gatherings that are being racist, how you stand up online when someone's being attacked. All of those things that you do is your key to teaching them to be assertive. And if you wouldn't call someone out on their behavior, don't expect your child to. It's really risky for us, even as adults, to call someone out in the mall and say, well, you can't say that or you can't do that. We mind our own business, maybe. Your child will emulate what you do. There is a risky and a non-risky way to handle things and deal with things. And so please know that what you do teach your kids that what you do matters. Let them learn from their mistakes. Don't try and insulate them or bubble wrap them from all hurt, because when you're no longer rapping, then what? You have to give them the skills to stand up for things and to know what to deal with and what to leave, when ignoring works and when ignoring fuels more mistreatment. So here's some resources for you. I love using children's books to help kids learn empathy and feel empowered. They might connect with a character. So we will share these titles with you. And there's certainly lots of titles here that you could use. Reading books with your child is really helpful. And even into teenage years, going back to a children's book sometimes can re-trigger some of the things they learned when they were younger. And then how do you help? Well, I hope that in this short 30 minutes, you've had some strategies that you can use. And that if your child came home and says, so-and-so hit me today, or this kid tried to beat me up, or I got pushed down the slide, or this girl wouldn't stop chasing me, or look at mom, look what she texted me. Or, you walk by and you hear your son on video gaming and you can hear the language that is being used in the put downs, that you would at least know what to do. And so just a quick recap, main thing, get to the context. Make sure that you know if it's bullying or a conflict. Then you'll know which strategies to use going forward. Problem solving, giving your kids assertive skills, all of those things will help to isolate and get support from those around you as well, including teachers and administrators. Teaching your kids to report for themselves, stand up for themselves, and be assertive is really one of the first steps to combat this mistreatment. I have a list of resources here that I will share with our groups to be able to share on the website as well. And had we been in person, I would have printed this for you. It is a handout from one of Barbara Colarosa's books that is helpful as well for parents to look at when you're trying to understand that cycle of bullying. So now I believe I've covered it all, and I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. I hope you're leaving with some tips. And if I can be of any help at all, you can always find me at École Saint-Thomas. I'd love to answer questions if you have any, and I hope you have a good evening. Thank you so much.